So, when you think of Goa, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably sun drenched beaches, right? Maybe that amazing culture, that unique mix of East and West. And yeah, it's all of that. But, behind that picture perfect postcard, there's a much more complex story going on. A paradise that's kind of struggling with the consequences of its own popularity. So, let's dig into the paradox of Goa. Okay, so at the very heart of Goa's identity is its incredible history. What we're looking
Mhm.
at here is the Church of St. Cajetan. It's just one piece of this amazing collection of monuments in Old Goa that are so important they've been named a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This stuff, this is the foundation of Goa's global appeal, of rich, real past that you can actually see and touch. And this quote really just nails the image that's been so successfully sold to the world. A veritable tourist paradise. That's not just some catchy travel slogan, it's an identity that has totally shaped the region and has drawn in millions of people, all looking for that unique, harmonious vibe. And that idyllic image? Well, it's turned into a massive economic engine. We're talking about a complete transformation, one that has fundamentally changed the state's entire economy. So let's take a look at the actual numbers behind this tourism boom. Here's the big one. Over 16% of Goa's entire gross domestic product comes straight from tourism. I mean, think about that. That's a huge reliance on just one industry. It's not just part of the economy. For a lot of people, it is the economy. And this number, this shows you the human side of that story. More than a third of the state's population, a full 35%, works directly in tourism. We're talking about everyone from hotel staff to tour guides. A huge chunk of the community relies on this industry to make a living. And this slide really shows you just how fast this all happened. Back in 1975, Goa had about 200,000 visitors. Fast forward just 3 decades, and that number completely exploded to over 2.6 million. This isn't some gradual, steady growth. It's an absolute tidal wave of demand, and it's put some serious pressure on the region. And that right there brings us to the central question we're tackling today. An economic boom this big doesn't just happen without any side effects. It always comes with consequences. So what's the real trade-off for becoming a global tourist hotspot? This is where the paradox really comes into sharp focus. The very heritage that people come from all over the world to see is now being threatened by all the development built to house them. It's a classic case of, potentially killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. And the main battleground for this whole conflict? It's Old Goa itself. The UNESCO site, the absolute crown jewel of Goan heritage, is right on the front lines, facing threats that are directly tied to the out-of-control growth of the tourism industry. So what do these threats actually look like on the ground? Well, you've got everything from illegal buildings popping up way too close to historic monuments to modern high-rises that just completely ruin the historic skyline. Throw in businesses that just don't fit, environmental damage from trash, and traffic that chokes the streets, and you've got a heritage site that's quite literally under siege. But hey, this isn't all doom and gloom. It's also a story about the search for a solution. Faced with all these challenges, planners have come up with a blueprint, a real plan aimed at protecting Old Goa's heritage before it's too late. Let's see how they're planning to do it. The heart of the plan is to create these control zones, which you can see mapped out right here. The best way to think of them is like protective buffer areas. The idea is to basically draw a circle around the most important monuments, with zones that have super strict rules about what can, and more importantly, what can't be built. And this diagram shows the really simple but powerful logic behind it all. See the monument on the far left? Right next to it, within 300 meters, there's a strict no development rule. As you move a little farther away, you can have low-rise buildings. And as you get even farther out, the height restrictions start to relax. Pretty smart, right? Now, this table puts some hard numbers to that visual concept we just saw. So inside 300 meters, absolutely no development. Simple as that. Between 300 and 500 meters, you can build, but you're capped at 1 or 2 floors with really strict height limits. It's only once you get a full 1,000 meters away that the general building rules kick in. It's a really clear system designed to protect that historic skyline. So, all of this brings us to the fundamental choice that Goa is facing right now. It is a huge, high-stakes decision that's going to define its future, and it'll determine whether its paradise is ultimately lost to unchecked growth or found again through careful preservation. And in the end, it all comes down to this balancing act. On one side, you've got the undeniable economic prosperity that tourism brings in. It's the engine that's creating jobs and revenue. But on the other side, the very activity driving that engine is threatening the unique cultural fuel, that precious heritage that makes the place so special to begin with. And that leaves us with one final and really critical question. And honestly, it's a question not just for Goa, but for countless beautiful and historic places all over the world that are dealing with the exact same pressures. Can a place be both a profitable paradise and a preserved one? The answer is going to shape the future of a lot of our favorite destinations.